But with that being said, we have 2 more pickups in this video. Before we go back into CEX though, let's go to a different store. Let's go to the Lego store. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the free trading game collection challenge, the series where I look to build a video game collection. This one right here without spending any money on it. There is a playlist in the description for you to check out if you want to know how we've managed to accumulate any of the games and indeed collectibles that you see behind me. Everything has been documented from game 1 to the most recent pickups. Now, that being said, on screen for you, I do have a cash balance. That's how much money the series has generated in profit so far. So not only have we added all of those games into the collection for free, they've paid for themselves by the flips that we've made. Sometimes we even sell part of the collection on to generate some funds here or there. That's been known to happen. It may or may not happen in the very near future. But that's how much cash balance we have in the series, so that I can go out and spend that amount of money knowing that it's all been generated through the series. The collection value is also on screen. That price is based on CEX selling prices, because we do most of our business in CEX, and today's going to be absolutely no different. We are going to hit the shops. I'm not just going to go to CEX, I'm going to go to 1 or 2 others as well, a shop that I've never been to before in this series to have a little look around, because there may be something that I want there that's not really video game collecting, but it is at the same time. It's a bit of a grey area, I guess. It is a collectible. We'll get into that in just a second, but first, let's head on into CEX, because there are a few games I had my eye on. I had a little look at the stock file. So basically, if you go onto the CEX website, webuy, I think it is, .com, you can have a look to see what store has what in stock. And generally speaking, it is accurate. And I say generally because it's not 100% accurate, as I found out when I went to Cardiff yesterday, and that will be in a later video. They don't always have what they say, but it gives you a very, very good indication of what they have. So I'm having a little look around, and I pick up a Mario Tennis for £6 on the Wii U. We don't have this in the collection. I don't actually see it that often. This is the first time I've actually seen it in this CEX, which is my local one. But unfortunately, it has been chewed up in the corners. And if it was just the case, I wouldn't mind, because I can swap it out for another case. That's not a problem, but the artwork has taken some damage. So unfortunately, I had to leave that one. I'm having another look around at a few other games here or there, and then I find Rayman. Again, a game that I wouldn't necessarily always go to, wouldn't be a go-to game for sure, but it is one that I don't have. It's cheap enough that we can pop it in to the collection, doing a spend the profit, which is what we're doing right now. Not spending any more than £15, picking up the games I wouldn't normally get via trade. And unfortunately, that one is even worse. That has been chewed. So there are some really hungry people walking around CEX trying to gnaw on the Wii U games, apparently. So those 2 games, ones that are actually marked to pick up, have been damaged, and I'm not going to pick them up. So then I had to think outside the box, and I had to go over to the Wii section. Now, there are actually a couple of games on the Wii that I want. Now, I've talked about this in the past. All first-party titles across all the consoles eventually I want within reason. So Nintendo in particular, obviously the Mario, the Yoshis, the Luigi type games, those first-party characters, I want those games. But there are a couple of others here or there on the Wii, SpongeBob for example, that you can't get on other platforms that are a little bit enticing. The platform SpongeBob games are fairly enjoyable. I very, very nearly picked up another SpongeBob game recently, and again, I may or may not show you that in an upcoming video, but SpongeBob is one of those things that I'm sure most people enjoy, whether they care to admit it or not. But on this occasion, they were maybe just a little bit too expensive. I'd like to know what consoles they're on exactly before I pull the trigger, because I don't really want to be buying them on the Wii if they're available on other platforms, so I decided to leave it. But I did pick up a Wii game. So as I mentioned very briefly there, what I like to do in these videos when we spend the profit is I like to take some of the cash balance that we've built up in this series and just go out and buy some games. Because normally we're looking to buy a game that we can flip, and then we use the profit to buy another game, and we go on Facebook and try and find some stuff, trade some stuff in, flip it on, make the money back, etc. That's what we do. But in the spend the profit episodes, I take £15. It's not really a written rule, but it's unwritten. It's in my mind. I mention it in every video. I go into CEX or another store, I look to spend no more than £15. That's not £15 per game, I just mean in general. And I try and pick up games like that Mario Tennis. It's a first party title, a Mario game on the Wii U that we don't have for £6. It fits perfectly within that spending the profit bracket. It's a game that I wouldn't necessarily want to pick up with credit, because when you have credit, I kind of want to pick up the more expensive games that I wouldn't want to spend cash on. It just makes more sense to me to do it this way. So £15 is the unwritten limit. What Wii game did I pick up? I've talked about it recently, and I would say it has come down. They've just not priced it properly. It is Resident Evil 4, but the Wii edition. I've seen some very mixed reviews. People slag this off a lot. I suppose with good reason, because it's not the definitive way to play Resident Evil 4 by any stretch of the imagination, but it gives you a different experience because of the way the controls work. Of course, you have a Wii remote, you can point and click. I feel like it may almost be reminiscent of a House of the Dead kind of game, more than a Resident Evil game, but it gives you a different way to play, I guess. So that's kind of why I wanted to pick this up. It is a different Resident Evil 4 experience. This says £5. But it wasn't £5, it was actually £4. This one is complete, as you can see there, and the disc is in good condition. But that is the first pickup, Resident Evil 4 on the Wii. Finally, I can put it on the shelf because I've had that off to the side for a little while. But with that being said, we have 2 more pickups in this video. Before we go back into CEX though, let's go to a different store. Let's go to the Lego store. So I'm looking around the Lego store. I don't normally go in here. I'm not really a big Lego person. In fact, I've not owned Lego since I was a child. And we decide, me and my wife are there, we'll go in. And then we're like, should we buy a Lego set, put it together, put it on the shelf? Both big Disney fans, obviously. So I thought about it, had a little look around. The only Disney that I could find in Lego that looked even remotely appealing was a castle with Mickey outside of it, but it looked more like Duplo. It wasn't, it was Lego, but it just didn't look that, I don't know, intricate, I guess. I just didn't see the appeal of it, but it was only $35, which I think for a Lego set is pretty reasonable. But then something else caught my eye, and it was video game related. It was an NES console. I haven't looked at this in any videos or anything. It was the first time I ever saw it there. I think it was about £230 or something crazy. But it was an NES console and a TV, and maybe there was a cartridge there as well, I can't remember. But that whole thing, it looked insane, and I thought, wow, how awesome would that be to build? But also, how awesome would that be to have on the shelf? That would look incredible. Something I may or may not look to bring into this in the future, if we can find some decent little Lego sets that are video game related, and we can sort of class that as a collectible, if you will. Maybe we build them, maybe we put them on the shelf. It's not going to turn into a collectibles series or channel by any stretch of the imagination, but little things here or there like that on the side of a video game collection look really cool, so I wouldn't be against doing that. But that NES, I think they had an Atari there as well, but the NES in particular, that really spoke to me, and I had a little look, and you could definitely get it cheaper than what you can in the Lego store. But again, it's still going to be around £200. That is a lot of money to spend on something that, we could buy a console for that. We're going to hop back into CEX now to pick up the 2 remaining games, and I noticed something about the Xbox 360 section. It may very well have happened across a lot of the other sections as well, but this was a day, 2 days after Christmas, I think. They don't have sales per se, but they do reduce prices, increase prices every day. The prices across everything just fluctuates, and there have been a lot of games on the Xbox 360 that I've looked at recently that have changed price, and for the better. A lot of them have come down. So I think Beautiful Katamari the other day was 12, I think it's now 10. Civilization, whatever you want to call it, I think that was 3, it's now 2, and I noticed that there were a lot of games that have been slashed in price, maybe not by £1, but some of them have come down by as much as £4 or £5 per game, which is a lot of money. The Fallout New Vegas, the Ultimate Edition with all the expansions and everything, they do have 2 copies of this in this CEX, both priced differently, one of which is £20, which was the original price, but they've dropped it by £5. It's now 15. So the other day where I picked up just the base game for, what was it, £3 or something, $2.50, and I said I wanted the definitive, the complete collection, but I wasn't willing to spend £20 on it because I'm pretty sure I can find it elsewhere cheaper. Well, now all of a sudden it's £15, come down by £5. So had I bought it for 20, I would have been kicking myself because it's been reduced. So a lot of things, you could argue, on sale in CEX. They've slashed a lot of prices. I've noticed it in the 4K section recently as well. A few things have come down. I traded in a Blade Runner not so long ago. This was just before Christmas. Traded in Blade Runner on 4K, the newest one, and about a day or two after I traded it in, they reduced the price by £5. It came right down. I was lucky to trade it in when I did. And they've done it on the 360. I've had a little look at the PlayStation 4 and PS5 and stuff, and they've reduced a few things, but nowhere near as much as this platform. And two games that I've been looking at, and we've spoke about recently actually, have both come down in price to the point where I was more than happy to buy them. In fact, both together, they come to the price that one of the games was the other day, or close to anyway. So, what games were they, I hear you cry? First game I'm going to talk about because it appeals to me slightly less than the other game. I think the other game is just much better value for money. But this is something that a lot of people were saying was good, a lot of people were saying was bad. Don't get it on the Wii U. I think you know what it might be. It is Tekken Tag Tournament 2. This was £8 on the 360 about a day or two before I actually picked this up. And on the Wii U, I think it's 15, and they had that in stock. They don't anymore. Someone bought that on the Wii U for £15. They don't have it anymore. I was going to get it on the Wii U, but what is the point? The Xbox 360 is a very capable platform. It is a platform that I would argue is probably the best to play beat-em-ups on. That and the PS3 is going to be much better than the Wii U experience, in my opinion. I might be wrong. I don't really know an awful lot about it. But for £5, come down £3 in the last few days. More than happy to pick that up. Definitely need to be picking up more of these beat-em-up games. I play a lot of these because it's something you can hop into, spend 10-20 minutes just beating the hell out of someone, and then you can turn it off and you've had your fill of it, and that's enough for me. I've been playing a lot of Game Pass recently, and there are a fair few beat-em-ups on there that I may or may not have picked up recently that you'll see in a future video. But that is another one to add to the list. And yes, it is complete and in very, very good condition, I might add. So that last game dropped from 8 to 5, which is a pretty decent saving. This one has dropped from 10 to 6, which is obviously far better. It's a game I've nearly picked up 2 or 3 times before. I'm glad I didn't. It is the Dead Rising collection on the Xbox 360. You get the first game, you get the second game, and you also get Dead Rising 2 Off the Record. It also says you get Dead Rising 2 Case Zero and Dead Rising 2 Case West. I'm not 100% sure if that is included in the Off the Record or whether that is a downloadable code. I'm going to look. Okay, so I do have a pullout here. And there it is, if you can see it on screen. It is the Dead Rising 2 Case Zero and Case West game add-on download, and I do have 2 codes. So I'm gonna say that they've been used, but at the same time, will I be able to use those codes? Is it because on the sticker, it doesn't say no DLC or DLC not included. It always says that on CEX games, so maybe you can still use those codes if you have the disc. I don't know, but even if those codes have been used and you can't use them again, I'm still happy to pick up the first 2 games and Dead Rising 2 Off the Record. The printing of this doesn't look great, if I'm honest. I'm not sure whether that's the case, whether it's meant to be like a filter, because obviously he's a photographer or a reporter, so I don't know whether the whole sort of design of this is meant to look like a photograph, because you know you do have to be a little bit careful when it comes to CEX, because they were known in the past to reprint covers and not tell you that they were reprinted. Some of them are obviously going to look far worse than others, but this could potentially have been one that has just slipped through the net, because now of course they have that cover reprinted in the top corner, quite clearly stated, so you can see what is and what isn't reprinted. I did have my doubts about this, but the more I look at it, the more you can quite obviously tell that it isn't reprinted. But the style of that did concern me slightly. But for £6 on that one, more than happy to add it to the collection. And that brings me to the total pickups. £15 on the nose spent. £6 for that one, of course £5 for that, and that was down to 4 rather than 5. But saved a lot of money there, because again, I looked at that the other day, nearly bought it for 8, looked at that the other day, nearly bought it for 10, and I thought both of them were worth it then. So the fact that they've reduced them just made me that much happier. I think there are quite a few games actually on the 360 that have come down in the last few days that I would like to go and buy. There have been a few that have been bought up, unfortunately. I think Test Drive is one that's come down slightly. It's one of my favourite driving games. I really like Test Drive. Test Drive 2 is decent as well, and that hasn't come down. But the original Test Drive game, really enjoyed that, and they didn't have it in stock, so going to need to keep an eye out for that. But yeah, quite a few games that have come down to like £2 or £3. A lot of them have come down to £1, which is a little bit surprising. But definitely the time to be buying 360. That's going to do it for today's video, though. Those going into the collection, added to the shelf. In the next episode, I think we're going to add some substantial games. I've got a big stack in front of me that we're going to have to try and work through in the next few episodes. So look forward to that. If you have enjoyed this, though, do me a favour and hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and until the next time, goodbye.